Welcome back to another Sim Sunday and another in our Interesting Approaches series. And I should also say, welcome back to Hamad International Airport in the state of Qatar. And of course, we're back in Xplane, so I'm handing over this particular episode of Sim Sunday to the ReaL Airbus pilot who's going to fly the awesome Flight Factor Airbus A320 from here in Doha across to Kathmandu in Nepal. Of course, being a virtual pilot in prepared 3D, as I narrate this video on behalf of the ReaL Airbus pilot, I have to admit I'm extremely impressed by the quality of the interior of this Qatar Airbus A320 from Flight Factor. It looks absolutely incredible. Anyway, time to get up to the cockpit, jump into the captain's seat and get those batteries switched on, the cockpit powered up, and prepare this aircraft for its flight across to Kathmandu. Jumping forward to the pre-taxi checklist, the ReaL Airbus pilot is preparing to depart from runway 34 right here at Hamad International Airport in Doha. Being a ReaL Airbus pilot, the ReaL Airbus pilot tells me that the Flight Factor models of the A320 and the A350 Airbuses are as near as you can get to the real thing in PC flight simulation. The taxi from the gate to runway 34 right was quite a long one here at Hamad International Airport, so we decided to jump forward to the departure point, where the ReaL Airbus pilot contacts air traffic control requesting departure clearance.
Qatar 646, contact tower on 118.025.
Contact tower on 118.025, Qatar 646. Tower Qatar 646.
Qatar 646, fly heading 340, runway 34 right, you're cleared for takeoff.
Fly heading 340, runway 34 right, Qatar 646.
With ATC providing takeoff clearance, it's time for the ReaL Airbus pilot to turn on the landing lights, before turning his attention to the pedestal, where he switches on the weather radar and of course TCAS. He was telling me that despite Flight Factor charging nearly $90 for this add-on aircraft, there are some basic flaws in the TCAS systems that you wouldn't see in either the Aerosoft or the FS Labs product for prepared.
On runway 34 right.
As this Flight Factor Airbus A320 reaches rotate speed, the ReaL Airbus pilot eases back on the control stick, easing this little aircraft into the sky.
Qatar 646, contact center on 135.95.
Contact center on 135.95, Qatar 646.
I have to admit that I'm still really impressed by the interior modelling of this Flight Factor Airbus A320 for Xplane. Just look at the sun's shadowing on the engines through the window. This looks absolutely gorgeous. As the Qatar coastline disappears into the horizon behind us, the ReaL Airbus pilot directs this little Flight Factor Airbus A320 in a southeasterly direction towards Iran, Pakistan, across India before turning north towards Nepal. The ReaL Airbus pilot will be flying the RMP AR approach into Kathmandu on this flight from Qatar. The AR, of course, standing for authorization required. This also means that the pilot flying this approach must be qualified to make the specific approach into Kathmandu. And as you can see from these Jeppesen charts, the reason for this is, of course, the high terrain that surrounds the city of Kathmandu, the capital city of Nepal. Jumping forward to the approach phase of this flight into Kathmandu, the ReaL Airbus pilot programs the FMC, which sets up the direction of flight, the descent pattern, and of course the speeds, which will enable him to make a safe and steady approach into this challenging airport in the Himalayas. As we approach the cloud layer, the ReaL Airbus pilot is ensuring that the terrain awareness system is switched on. However, he was telling me that when you fly this approach into Kathmandu for real in a ReaL Airbus, of course, the terrain awareness system is a lot more pronounced than here in the Flight Factor simulator. While we'll make this approach through the Himalayas, you can start to see the airport at Kathmandu coming into sight. And while this mountain range might look scarily close at times, the Airbus pilot is monitoring the terrain while at the same time following the pre-programmed flight on the FMC at a 2.8 degrees glide path.
2,500.
Approaching 02.
Approaching 500 feet and with runway 02 at Kathmandu clearly in sight, the ReaL Airbus pilot has been given clearance to land. However, as we approach the runway, you can start to see that there is another aircraft on the runway, which means there is no way we're going to be able to land. The ReaL Airbus pilot tells me this can happen in real life, and while it doesn't happen very often, it is a reminder that good situational awareness is vital at any part in any flight. So as you will see any second now, the ReaL Airbus pilot makes the right decision to go around. As you can imagine, with the Himalayan mountains surrounding the Kathmandu airport, the go-around procedure is an extremely well documented process and requires both pilots to be fully briefed before they attempt to make this approach into Kathmandu. Right, coming round to make a second attempt at this approach into Kathmandu, the ReaL Airbus pilot is undertaking a VOR approach to runway 02. And he was telling me that this mainly visual approach into Kathmandu requires extreme concentration following the approach plate, with energy management the key factor in making a safe landing.
2,500. 1,000.
Too high. Too high. Approaching 02. Too high, too high.
Think rate. Think rate. Think rate.
100. 50, 40, 30, 20, retard, 10, 5.
Another beautiful landing by the Airbus pilot, but of course you would expect that from the professionals, not like mine of course. The one thing that still really impresses me about these images from Xplane is the quality of the stock airports. I have to admit that they look so much better than the stock airports you get with FSX or Prepared. Anyway, as the ReaL Airbus pilot pulls this Qatar A320 of Flight Factor onto stand, it is time for me to bring this episode of Sim Sunday to a close. In the next episode, we'll be heading to my city of birth, and that of course is Belfast, where I'll be taking over command in Prepared of an Aer Lingus A320 of Aerosoft and attempting to land smoothly and of course safely at Belfast City Airport. So until that next video, thanks for watching.